Yeah, it's got audio.
Sometimes gone. What? Sheridan. But it's just. Yeah, so. Yeah, I think it's the live character assassination. It's nice and quiet. It is, it's just like, now I got my ears out. Here's the funny. She went. It's you'll be announced. I'm gonna trust that you want to. It shows. It's not for the nuclear. It's airport. Oh, it's for. Airport usually goes down low on Mars and the next. How screwed up. Only house. I gotta get there. Yes.
You can't.
I need to. I think I don't see anything.
Yeah.
But it was like a good. Back to John. You ready? It's time. I'm up by a couple seconds. Oh, I didn't know I was. I'm just watching that one.
He watched that club. He watches that club all the time too. So
Yeah.
yes, it's ready. Hey guys, we could before we get started, but thank you. Real quick, thanks for coming out, taking time out of your evening. Hopefully we can get to know a little bit about each other. That's what the purpose is here. And that's really what it comes down to. We can talk about whatever you're willing to talk about. I'm up here to answer any questions you have. One advantage I bring is I don't have any connections to anybody personally here. All my jobs since I've been in Wyoming have been in other counties other than the one I live in. Working in Douglas at the police academy and then working in Platte County at some of the state park, state cop out there. So I haven't had the chance to do what I want to do, which is be part of a community I live in. And this is an opportunity for me to do that. It's not a town council meeting. That's why the seats behind me are empty. It's a chance for us to talk about what we're looking at and what it means to potentially pursue having a police department in this community so that we can stay ahead of the curve as Casper, Evansville, and Mills continue to grow and continue to have the issues they're having. We're in the blast zone, folks. We're in the blast zone. We'd like to get ahead of it. With that, it's your time. If you want more background from me, I can give you that. I'd rather give you guys the time to ask your questions and have your concerns heard. If stuff I wanted to say at the end, I'll say it. I have a feeling you guys are probably going to cover pretty much most of it. Is that fair? If you want to hear more about what I used to do, I can do either one. This is your time.
What's the top three priorities?
Top three priorities. Well, the first one was to determine do we have a need. Got all the information from the sheriff department. They're handling roughly 900 calls a year. There's a need.
In Barnett.
In Barnett alone. That's a lot of calls. That's calls for service. That's just calls that they're getting without having an active patrol here other than present for 40 hours a week.
How many calls for services the sheriff department has that's greater than the 10 minute response time from the deputy?
That I don't have. So we did not get in the weeds. And the reason we didn't get in the weeds is because we will do that as we progress and determine, yes, we can reasonably finance this without hampering the town. My goal right now is I'm not really trying to spend any money until we say, yes, we can do this and we can sustain this. I don't need to do that. We want to make sure we're doing this as close to correct as we can. That's one reason we're having this opportunity to sit down and go get to it. Other things to make sure we keep our community involved and informed. I can't do my job without the community. My job is not writing tickets and, believe it or not catching bad guys. That's the result of failing at my job. It's prevention. Can't prevent crime without y'all's help. Can't do it. I can solve it all day long without the community. I've been doing it for 30 years. Video and DNA helps me do that. But I'd rather prevent it. For that, we've got to understand we all have a role to play. I want 3,000 reservists in the police department. That's my goal. We're all committed to this mission of safety.
Well, that sounds almost more like what the sheriff's supposed to be doing, deputizing the community as it means.
So, yeah, so deputizing is this, there's a time when we were all capable of that. I'm not sure we're there now. Social media has done a lot of things to society. And we're not the culture we used to be when we were founded. We're not outdoor oriented. We're not familiar with weapons anymore. We're the minority for those of us who are. And we've forgotten some things. We can talk about some founding documents that are almost 200 years old that established modern day policing, and most cops don't know it. Not most nobody in the community knows about it. Not anything to be mad about. It's just nobody's telling us what we're supposed to do. And yeah, the sheriff wants to, but we got to look around the community. There's a small handful that can actually take on the responsibility. Look how heated we get on certain things. It's tough. I'm going to tell you, it's tough to sit there, especially today in law enforcement, where we're mandated to put up with things that 30 years ago, we could take in jail. Yes, ma'am.
So what is this culture of policing that we're looking to do, and what are the principles?
So there's actually a document called the Appealing Principles. I think I have enough for everybody here. So those principles determine how we police. And what it says is there's three that are the keys. The first one, principle number one, says why we're here, to prevent crime. The last one, number 9, says the evidence of proper policing isn't the evidence of criminal activity, it's the absence of crime. So it's not how many tickets we write, it's how little crime we have. So those are the two bookends. The middle principle that we're looking at is the key, I think, number 7. It says the historical fact that the people are the police are the people. The only difference being that police officers like me, those who choose to wear the uniform, do full-time that which is incumbent upon every member when it comes to keeping each other safe. We all have a job to do. We all should embrace this mission. And the mission I have behind me is the one I would like to have for us. It's pretty straightforward. It's clean, which is another problem we have. That first sentence, to keep the peace while maintaining law, order, and civility, that should be in every police department's first sentence everywhere around the country. And then you have a clarifier for us, ensuring the lifestyle and level of safety that you guys expect. I don't want you feeling safe. I want you to be safe. There's a difference. It's easy to feel safe when things are going around you because we don't know. So we don't know what to look for. My experience traveling the country, teaching and consulting, that's the number one issue for communities with crime problems. We don't share it with the community, so they can't help us prevent it. So the main principle is I want a relationship with you guys. I need that help from you. The culture is, so let's look at it this way. Heard of the higher standard? I want to hold my cop to a higher standard. I'm going to tell you I disagree with that, and I'll explain to you why. Let's talk about, when we talk about standards, talk about characteristics, right? So what characteristics does a cop would have? Integrity, courage, and they should be trustworthy, yes? Would that be a fair statement at the base? What else do you think should be up there as a characteristic for a cop that you want to see? Anything you think, what?
Restraint.
Restraint? What else? Boy, we're gonna have to put a asterisk by that. What else? Fairness, understanding, empathy. Make your list as long as you want to make it. Now, I'm going to ask you this question. This is what's on this list that we shouldn't all strive to be as a community member. Take that list. What do you think leaders should have? Maybe the first four. You think they should have all these others? So, as a leader, those of you who own businesses, it's the same list. But my belief and what I strongly feel is, if not a higher standard, we exemplify the standard. How you become a police officer is I try to exemplify those things more consistently, more often, and I struggle every day to do it, but I'm willing to make that struggle. I expect that from everybody in this community. That's what we should be looking for. There is no higher standard. There's a standard we all strive for. And those of you who understand that, you know that's a struggle every day. I do not get this right every day. I'm human. There's no way. But I make sure when I realize I'm off the rails, what do? I figure out how not to go off the rails a bit. That's my belief. If that explains the relationship I expect to have. If you want calm when I arrive, guess what I need from you guys? Calm. We got to exhibit the behavior we expect. Right now, we're yelling and screaming at each other, demanding people behave that I'm not willing to behave that manner myself. I can't do that. If I take the worst high school football team in the country and put them up against the best pro team, and I tell the pro team, you got to follow the rules. Hey, high school guys, whatever it takes to win. How long do you think it should be before they win? Not long. I'll hit you in the head with a 2x4. You said anything until to win. I mean, that's literally what's happening to us right now. We need to understand that behavior you want from me, I need from all of us. You need to intervene. That's not a cop thing. That's a community thing.
And that's.
It all does.
Yeah, I mean, technically.
Yeah. So the issue is this, and that's why those Pelian principles are so important. I am you, you're me. I'm no different than you. As a matter of fact, there's only one thing that separates us as people. You know what that is? No, the decisions we make. That's the only thing that separates us. And those decisions go on the entire time you're awake. That's the only thing that happens. That's the only thing that will separate us. I'm only here because I made the decision and I fell on my head and got hurt and got PDI to be fine. That's why I went about. That's the only thing that got me here. I made that decision. Yes, sir.
No, I thought you had it.
Sorry, now you got me up out of the chair.
For law enforcement, a lot of people that I found that most people. Other officer you hide and flat into your face. Yes, right. I can hear you down on. I have. Why can do for this? Then I would listen to him. But if you have similar research to that. Kids in the community.
No, nobody, not even adults won't talk.
It's gonna be, very selective.
No, you're exactly spot on. So here's the thing. One of the goals is we have an elementary school here. I'm hoping to get a school resource office. Now, that doesn't mean they're attached to the school 24/7, but they're the school liaison. And here's what we've learned from their program and school resource office. Guess what they learned about the kids? Who are the ones we gotta worry about, who are the ones we need to pay attention to help keep them on the right track. They know that from the kids before it's permanent record. If we do this correctly, we build a relationship, we can help make sure those kids get what they need. Because here's the issue, I'm not here to raise y'all children. Okay, that's a problem. And right now, it's a problem we have. I'll say it, I think we made a mistake, that it takes a village to raise a child. I'm sorry, but most villages have too many villages. It takes parents to raise children. However, it absolutely takes a village to keep them safe. That's a fact, and that's been a fact since the dawn of man. It's never been the responsibility of a single person or a single group. Matter of fact, way back when, before this became a profession, you had somebody make the announcement, what happened to the town? They all went and got their pitchfork rakes, and those that had fire and gun, and they took care of the problem.
Because at the end of the day, it's like you say, every citizen, and we don't actually release that right, because that's everybody's inherent right. It's no different than an officer. Every citizen in this country has that inalienable right to defend yourself and protect the innocent.
Correct.
That is your civic duty.
Yeah, but here's the issue. Here's why we don't have the ability to have every person do that. How complicated are the friggin' law, buddy? And it's not the law. Here's the problem. You can read statute all day. That doesn't tell me what I'm supposed to do. You know what tells me what to do? Case law. You know how often that changes? I get a notice every week from around the country from all the circuits as to what's doing. I pay attention to this one, but why do I pay attention to the others? So that we can avoid that mistake. It's become too complicated, just like taxes and everything else, for you to do it as a citizen. However, at the base level, what can we do at the base level to meet our requirement as a community member? Not just a community member. People who drive through Bar None don't live here, but when they drive through here, guess what they are? A community member. Guess what we expect? For them to follow our rules, right? You travel to another state, do you not have to follow the rules because you're not a citizen, or do you have to follow the rules because you're a temporary community member? So that's still a fact. So I want to make sure we understand anybody in this community. I don't care whether you're here legally, illegal, or where you're from. Guess what you're expected to do? Follow the rules. At the base, all we ask, do what we ask, please do what we tell you. And if you're really against it, take us to court. In court, you know where I sit on that rung? Way down here, I'm the witness. That's all I am. On the street when things are happening, I'm sorry, but those folks in uniform have the final say. Unless it's really ridiculous. We have to be careful. I'm going to give you as much information as I legally can. And I want us questioning. I sure don't want a bunch of YouTube lawyers out there, because most of the time it's wrong. I'm just telling you factually it's wrong. Because we'll read the part we want to read, and we go with that. My job, and we're going to create a community information board with members from every segment of this community to sit on it. We'll determine how often you want to meet to exchange that information, have those conversations. Because that's 7, I think it's up to 10 members now, because there's some different parts of the community we may draw from other than just one homeowner. We're going to get together, we're going to have those discussions to let you know, here's what we're doing, here's why. Within reason, we're not going to talk about open investigations or any of that stuff or those types of things, but we will talk about, as we build this department, what are we looking for? What do we want to accomplish? What level of service? I agree with you. We need to be approachable. But to everybody, not just kids. My lieutenant in the parks will tell you, I'm the only FTO he had. I train other officers. I've been doing that for 20-something years. I tell all of them, your windows need to be down. I don't care how hot or how cold it is. You have heat and AC. Back in the day, before we had vehicles and all that, guess how we patrolled? And we were approachable. Then we got cars. Now what happened? I'm just driving fast, but I can hear you. Oh, AC. I don't have to hear you. Oh, now I got a computer and a radio. I don't have to hear you or pay attention.
And then that's the thing. That's why a lot of us aren't necessarily against law enforcement. What we're against is everything that you're saying. Because, I mean, I'm old. Or I'm not.
I'm older than you, that's okay.
Yeah. But I remember those days when you could literally walk up to a peace officer and ask them a question. You can just ask them directions, because they know, because they're out there every day. And the way it is now, man, you even approach them and it's like, what are you doing?
Well, so,
Because I know their situation too, but how do we not, because that whole approachable thing is the biggest deterrent for a lot of people.
I agree. And I was
Because it's like, because I'm sorry, you guys are the boot. You're the boot.
we're the principals.
Yeah. So it's,
We don't look, so every once in a while, once you call us and go, hey, Johnny's having a birthday, why don't you come by and say hello? We don't get those calls. We get, Johnny won't get off his phone in the school. Cool, I can't do anything about that either legally. Because it's not against the law unless you're in the Carolinas, but they made it against the law. We misuse our law enforcement. And I get
well,
it.
yeah, that's,
And that's part of it too. So for me, that's this, so here's, I'm that idiot. It took me 2 years to understand what a mission was and how it's supposed to be used, because it's part of the city. For me, that mission statement helps guide what I do and when I do it. So any interaction our folks have, and as a community, this is our community mission, by the way. I'm sharing it with you and I'm going to explain it to you because I expect you guys to be committed to it as well. I'm not looking for compliance from us. Compliance is too low a bar. Compliance means I'll do it because you're standing there. I get that from the criminals. I mean, that's just a fact. I mean, you're laughing. You go, yeah, you know what, that's right. You want your employees to be compliant with the rule or committed to the company. There's a difference. So this means, the first thing is, whatever it is I'm doing, am I helping to keep the peace while I maintain law, order, and civility? And the civility part's the one we're messing up now. Across the country. So as I do my job, that's my guide. If I'm yelling, it better be in support of that. Oftentimes I can get away without yelling, unless it's critical. And that's the other thing, we got to understand, I want conversational contact, not confrontation. Confrontation wants to be clear. Somebody hurting somebody, destroying somebody else's property in that moment, that's gonna be confrontation. I'm not gonna say, hey, please stop. You're gonna get command. Yes, ma'am.
So can you talk about this community information board, because that sends a lot of snitches.
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about snitches, get stitches, and all that other stuff. We complain about that, but then we get mad when something happens to my family member and nobody told me what was going on. Is that snitching or is that looking out for each other's safety? There's a fine line, I get it. We do it with our kids. Don't tattletale. Okay, well, tattletaling, what is happening? Johnny's skipping school. That might be tattletaling. Well, Johnny's skipping school and robbing banks. Is that tattletaling or is that, hey, somebody needs to know? So the community information board, and I was very specific in how I want it to be utilized and named. It's not oversight. Unless you guys are all going to go to the academy and spend 3 years on the job, I can't have you tell me how to do my job. But I want your input on what you believe it should look like. And I'll put it this way. We're going in for brain surgery. Do you want a bunch of people on that board telling that brain surgeon what to do who have no idea what the surgery's like? Yeah. And look what's happened with that. So this idea is to exchange information. Because if I'm trying to make a decision as chief, that's my job. I want to make sure it's a decision that I've thought all the angles. If I've got 10 other people, especially people who don't know the job, guess what angle they're coming from? 10 angles that I may not see. So it helps me make a better decision. So the community information board is simply that. Let's talk about it. Hey, here's what I'm looking at doing. Here's why. Here's what the mission statement is, and here's why. I want to ensure the quality of life and safety expected by you in the community. And I'm part of it. I'm going to tell you, by the time this is all done, my work day, I'll probably be spending more time in the community than most residents. Because I already know what my work session is going to be like. So I am part of this community. I don't live in it. Because if I did, I'd never get any rest. I've been that route. I can't live in the community, please, because y'all won't leave us alone.
no, it's true. That's why other officers live in other neighborhoods.
We have to live somewhere else. And it's not necessarily folks being rude, it's just you don't know what Sheridan is for. That's the issue. It's too hard to do that. That's also why I need the community information board. If we set this up right, without actually doing it, what it's going to do is it's going to help me get information about what's happening around town, what's happening in the business setting, what are their concerns, bars and restaurants, what are their concerns, what's happening for them, what do we need to do to help make sure that folks are going, enjoying themselves and getting home safe. I need that information. Plus, that's 10 people that become part of what? The communication stream with you. I'm not here to work for you guys. I'm here to work with you guys. If we're working for each other, one of us is not doing the job. That's my opinion. I should be working with you.
So how are you going to about the signature?
So I have For it, so. So we have churches in the community. I need somebody from the religious community, not from every church. We're gonna rotate it. You're gonna be on this committee for maybe 2 years. Okay? Maybe a year for the first one, because we're gonna be busy the first part of these buildings. Somebody from the school, from our school, not the school board. Okay, because I want to know what their needs are. Somebody who works for the town, with roughly 8 full-time workers for the town. I want one of those folks. Because they're gonna have a perspective that I don't. From the business, someone from the restaurant and bars, and someone from the other businesses we have. There'll be 2 segments of the business, because they're distinctly different. Homeowner, we're looking at 4 parts of the community that I've been told by the sheriff department: Old Bar None, New Bar None, Circle North, Circle South, and Prairie Lawn.
And 'cause all those areas actually have different
Correct.
things going on. Like, so you're part of the town, we don't have. But on the other new end of town, they have that.
So again, I'm trying to be intentional and to grab as much as we can for the community without having to. Because that's too much. All right.
So you do one from each area of those areas.
Yeah, one of these areas, plus and then I need somebody who doesn't want us here. I've already thought about asking if you're up for it. I'm good with it. But I need that opinion because look, as you mentioned, a lot of that is the perspective of what we've been told or see in the media, special interest in the movies and TV, not necessarily what's happening. The cool thing here is that we don't have a bad reputation. So I need that perspective, and one of my hope is we have the conversation, go, oh, I didn't know that. Cool. Or I'll go, oh, good point. Let's not do that. So I need that viewpoint. I'm willing to do it. I don't either. So look, guys, I'm here because I want to be. I've retired. I work around the country teaching verbal de-escalation skills, control and custody skills, leadership skills. I do all that stuff. Policy writing. I'm here because I want to be. And to me, this is a tremendous opportunity as a community. Even those of us who are hesitant to have a police department go, hey, it's going to happen eventually. I'd rather be ahead of the problems rather than knee-jerk reaction, so we can do this in a timely fashion. I'm going to tell you now, it'll probably be 9 months before we put these on the ground.
That's what my question was gonna be. If I heard you right, you said, like, you're here to assess the need.
The need is there.
Okay,
I've already
that's
said
already
that.
assessed.
Now we got to determine what level of service. So what that means is we are not going to provide 24-hour service. It's not going to happen. That's not how
That's a
anything.
lot of people.
That's a ton of people. But we don't do that in the parks I work either. What we do is now as I determine the need is there and how many people we're looking at to make this happen, we go back and we figure out what are the peak times. If we do this right, that's when I have patrol out. Day shift, I'm looking at 1, maybe 2. If I get my 3 plus a chief, because I don't have the job yet, that's what interim means. I want the job. This is my opportunity to earn it or mess it up. So I'm an interim. I have all the authority. I have arrest authority and all that stuff. I'm capable. Why are we not patrolling now? I don't have a car. I don't have a cage. We don't have an agency number. We don't have the infrastructure to do it. However, as I drive around town, which I do, already looking at the areas that I can tell and see things that other folks don't, that I know that I'm going to be busy with. If I saw something that needed my attention, I have the capability to make arrest right now. Okay. So it's not a question of authority. It's a question of infrastructure. We're not there. And I'm not rushing that either. That's why we have the contract with the sheriff and we will extend it if we need to.
But that's what you're talking about, like 9 months before boots on the ground.
Yeah. So here's 9 months. So we have this. This is more than I was looking for. I'll be honest. It would have been a lot easier to have an agency already up and running. You don't understand how much you have to get into to get. I mean, I've got to go. I got to talk to the sheriff's department. Okay, what's it mean? What's it cost to put someone in jail? How do we do transport? How do we go back? Oh, I got to go to dispatch and say, so what does it cost for me to be part of this? And I got to get radios and what's our call up signs going to be? All those things, and then I got to build relationships here. So for me, 9 months, I'm doing admin stuff, but I've got to make time today to do what? Just go out and talk to people. I have 9 months to build a relationship before I have to become the principal. And the idea of letting people know, look, we have to pay more attention to our actions, not our intentions. And this is what I mean by that. And I'm guilty of it too. I run the stop sign, I didn't need to, I wasn't paying attention. Somebody else runs it, what do we say? Not nice words. But when you ran it, that somebody else went, same nice words. We're gonna have to be more intentional about how we behave. That's all. It stuck with me when you said revenue collect. I don't wanna be that.
Well, no, that's why I'm so against all this, is because like I say, I mean, I know, and I'm not against law enforcement, I'm
I'm
really
with
not,
you.
that's the
understand.
thing. It's just that you guys, like I say, are the boot. You guys are the ones that end up going in my view, the wrong direction because you started ahead.
So what are those
You have
core
the
principles that
authority
might
to
do?
so.
So just so I know, what are the core principles you're talking about?
The core principles that we just had up there on the board, you know.
Oh, honor, okay, so those characteristics of the behavior we expect. So how
Because,
much,
you know, at the end of the day, you have a job to do. So,
well, we answer to each other.
what?
You see it all over. It comes from administration.
Well, I know, and that's where,
But we're hoping to start a culture that is with most administration. So, that's why I'm saying, I know Steve doesn't think it. To me, because this administration, we're not going to face it. It's not going to happen.
How do you prevent that though?
So if I can,
Yeah.
because this falls more in my bailiwick. So we already have ordinances and all the statutes have already been in the town code. They're there, you can look them up online. I do want to make an adjustment. Here's what I mean. One, there's a difference between accountability and responsibility. We misuse that term all the time. You're responsible for your actions. Accountability is actually positive. It's steps we take to make sure we don't get held responsible for a bad outcome. Right now, as it exists, I can give you a warning. I can write you a state citation for a misdemeanor. I got nothing in between. And we deal with every other municipality tends to be around the country. Our ordinances just say we mirror that. It just means the money goes back to the town as opposed to somewhere else in the state. All right, and it almost never goes back to the police department, because that's how we get in trouble and you get shut down by the feds for that. It goes back to some general fund or something like that. Here's what I would like to do. I want to take those ordinances that we have and create another accountability checkpoint. Meaning, a warning didn't work. I run into you again, and we'll say speeding, because I hear that's the biggest. I don't want to write speed tickets. You got to be speeding quite a bit, or being really nasty when I stop you from me to write a speeding ticket. I'd be a trooper if that's what I want to do. Okay. What I want to do with those ordinances is I want to cut that fine down and take it off the misdemeanor list. It's what we call in other states an infraction. Doesn't go on your permanent record, doesn't increase your car insurance. And it's $50 or $75 as opposed to $150. What it allows me to do is go, hey, I tried this. Maybe you think that's all you're going to get. Here's the next accountability piece before you get hammered with the raised insurance rates and the misdemeanor and possible other things. That's how I view the use of town ordinances, not to build revenue. I want it as another piece to say, hey, let me not go from zero to bad. Does that make sense? So you're gonna have, and here's the other reason you have to have ordinances. Because you'll have active patrol, we are gonna recognize things more often. The county, and I got this from the county attorney, says you need to have your own court system because we're not gonna handle all this stuff. I don't see town of Barnum having that much stuff, and here's why. If we do this correctly, we look out for each other. When patrol actually happens, the speed limits and stuff have been here for a while. It's just we kind of know we're probably not going to get caught. I'm not coming out. My folks will not be coming out when we get there and go, ha, caught you. You get taken. It'll be stuck. Hey, do me a favor. We're out looking. You slow down. I much rather have that option rather than when we go out for the play. I'm not here to write tickets. That's not a good day for me, folks. My best days are when all I got to do is say, how things going. Those are awesome days. If we build this correctly and we continue to have open conversations, then we can do that. Understand, there will be a time some of us will get tickets, but you'll know you earned it. You can ask anybody around the state of Florida and in Glendale, if they got a ticket for me, everybody will tell you, well, if Sheridan gave you one, you earned it. Because I'm gonna do everything I reasonably can not to write it. So when I write it, I don't feel bad about it. I don't hesitate. You earn it. I want us all to give each other a chance to be right. For me, that's vitally important. And I'm not making, I've got books published where everything I'm talking about, I put in writing. So it's real easy to hold me accountable. Hey, you wrote it. I have defined honor, integrity, courage, and trust. And we go, I don't need to define honor. We know what it is. Really? We don't know what it is. Because this is how I clarify it. You know one of the most successful honor codes in American history? Name a good one. The Mafia. The America. So do we need to define honor for our folks? Absolutely. Absolutely. That's where my headspace is. I'm that idiot. I get bored. I don't sit still well. Plus, I pay attention. I see what's going on. I know what it's like to be on that receiving side of somebody who's just, I've had bad days. It's a valid ticket. I just don't like the way you handle it. I don't want our cops handling people in a manner where they feel that way. I've written $800,000 tickets and had a handshake and a thank you for it. Because it could have been worse. My job is only to do that what I do think is necessary to change the behavior. That's it. If I think a woman will do it, I'm gonna do it all day. All day. But we all have that role. Help each other out. Hey, your brake light's out. Cool, and I don't have to deal with it. Stuff like that. And then don't get mad when somebody tells you that. Leave me alone. I know about the brake light. I mean, that's why we don't tell each other stuff. I have to tell my cops the same thing. Because the people, they get mad when somebody says your keepers are there. Leave me alone. I know somebody. We all laugh at you. Yeah. I may have done that once or twice myself. That's truly the goal. The council, and rightfully so, keep saying, what's the timeline? And I keep telling them, I believe 9 months before we actually put boots on the ground. Because I do not want to rush this. I think that's a mistake. And we have the ability to not rush it because we're not in a crisis right now from a safety standpoint. There are things going on in Barnum. We have a crime rate. But because of how we live in our own little space, not really paying attention, most of us don't know it. That's just life. Most of us, in a lot of cases, don't know our neighbor until we're down the stage. So to say we don't know the police department because we don't have crime, I'm going to tell you that's not the most informed statement. If you don't know your neighbors on the whole block, then you don't know what kind of crime they have. Because you don't know who you live next to.
Talk a little bit about your strategy in building relationships with people. How do you bring together a community that is so divided and that's lost all sense of civility?
So we're divided on an issue that everyone's passionate about. Get it. But also what I've noticed is we're starting to bring the temperature down to a low. The discussions are valid. I don't care where you stand on the things that are occurring. But what I will tell you is they prompt us in discussions that are overdue. And law enforcement's not one of them. This has nothing to do with that. Matter of fact, when the discussion was had, I said, are we sure we want to do this right now? Because of what's going on. What it has done, regardless of who ends up north or anywhere else, we have to start deciding how we want this town to go. What kind of businesses we want, because we need businesses. I don't know why we don't have a metro style coffee shop here. We can easily support it. So what it is forcing us to do is what's our growth plan? And then the growth plan says, okay, how do we go out and bring those kind of folks in so we can build this community the way we want?
Well, you know, and that's the other thing that's kind of unique about this out as well. Disagree on things. Yeah, we get pretty good. But at the end of the day, we still have each other class, and it's not like
Because everybody's
we
looking at
just like we
something.
meet each other. It's just we have a difference in opinion, and yeah, we do. And
Well, then
but
we
that's
have,
not to say that because we're divided on certain issues doesn't mean that we're not and don't care about where we live.
well, and we
the
have
people that-
outside agitators coming in to help that.
Yeah,
And that doesn't help. And now that's starting to go off kilter where even folks are going, wait a minute, what is that? So, and I'm happy to see there are folks that are outside, there's some folks that aren't from here, that are not here. They're more than welcome to talk, but at least got the right here to get the floor. Because this is your police department. Well, any question you want to ask?
I think this is, I want to kind of bring back
what happened when we went with other things, because, you know, I wasn't an advocate for this, but I understand it, and I'm appreciative that as town council, like, educated themselves and did the right man for the job. I'm really excited, because I know that I just kind of get fearful that I get really sort of like, like, maybe if you work out together, but
So there are things that are called civil that I can't, even if I want to, I can't do. So, but on that basis, so we have to discuss it, I'm not here to raise y'all kids. Right? And I can't, legally, I can't. But part of it is we don't have a system, we have either a verbal or a ticket, we have nothing in between. So we talked about what the ordinance that we already have, the things that are being discussed that we would like to do. I can't promise anything, because I gotta figure out from a legal standpoint, because every state has some issues with what they do and how. But the information I'm getting is if we're willing and we think it makes sense, we can make that another accountability piece rather than just another way to write the same fine for the same type of, right. I don't want to do that. I need something in between. Also, for our juvenile, we need to set up some sort of community service area. And the problem with that is, if you do that, somebody has to be available to watch them while they do community service. So you got to be careful how this rolls.
Well, yeah, then from a legal standpoint, if somebody gets hurt. Like,
Well, you gotta be careful what you have them do community service.
Yeah.
You're not going out there and operate machinery. They pick up trash at the playground. It depends on what they did. Oh, you did this, you're gonna repaint this thing.
Well, that's the way it used to be.
Right, and that's what we have to get there. It's baby steps. None of this is gonna happen overnight. I can tell you now, there's a ton of stuff I don't know. I've never been a chief before. And I've been a lieutenant in large agencies. I've run training for 187 plus sworn members by myself. Wasn't fun. So there's a lot of things that we're gonna learn as we go. But I'm gonna be as open as I'm legally allowed to be. There will be times when you're gonna ask questions. I'm gonna tell you, I cannot tell you. My hope is that I have the success with this community that I've had with my squads. You know, I would if I could. And we march on anyways, because I've told you every other time. There will be times when things are happening where I can't give you the information. You're gonna have to, hopefully we build the trust and go, okay, get it. I'll tell you as soon as it's done. That's what we have to understand. We all want information. But when, especially dealing with juveniles, I can't give you any of that. All right. So, but this is a process we can all learn together. And we're of a size where I think we can accomplish that. Someone mentioned the hiring. You're right. It's going to be tough to hire the right folks. I can't have somebody fresh from the academy. We're not picking doors in the bar. No. It's not happening. Often enough to be a cool place to work. I need somebody who has a personality who just like a salesman. They talk to everybody. Or somebody who's retired and goes, I'm not ready to leave the job yet. I just don't like the nonsense I'm dealing with in Florida. So I have a small hiring pool.
What does that process look like? Is that you and council? Like, what is that look like?
And again, those are things
Or
we
the
have to
board?
build.
Okay.
So typically what you have is you have an interview board. They have a process, there'll be things they have to accomplish, getting through a background, and those things usually come after the interview. So they apply, they meet whatever standards we say, and then they get an interview. And the key to that is setting up the interview questions correctly and having a scale that's objective, not subjective. It's really tough to do.
Sonny, don't you have a process similar to that for the fire department?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the processes are all out there. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take the one that we'll probably take a couple and blend them together to get what we want for the police department. Like I'm using the sheriff department's policies as our framework. Because we're in their county. I don't know why I need different policies from them. I'm policing the same folks. Because I think that's what it should be.
Well, yeah, it should be, because everybody in the county should know our laws and.
Well, it has to do with how we interact. I mean, and you know, there'll be things like if we don't have tasers, we may not be big because they're expensive. I won't have a taser policy. The sheriff does because they have tasers. So, and again, my opinion is, I forget how much they have pretty similar policy when it comes to policing. We're all in the same nation. We're policing the same folks. It's just there's kingdom wars. What's cool is we don't have them. Which is awesome. The sheriff's been very helpful, very supportive of all the chiefs of the other agencies, the state agencies involved in it. I mean, I would never get this kind of cooperation back to this. Never. I moved out of screen.
It's just hard to hear the community questions, so I'm gonna come sit over here and hopefully pick it up a little bit better.
Again, the process will be
Sorry.
will help. About the hate. I'm the idiot, this bad, I can tell you everything on bad, why it's that way. It all has meaning, not just a badge. If you study the history of the badge, we call it a shield. Comes from the time of the Spartans, King Demaratus. Here's what's the important part, and this is the stuff we've forgotten as a nation and as a profession. When you were a soldier back then, if you lost your armor, like your cuirass or your chest plate or that stuff, nothing happened to you because that was for your protection. You know what happened if you lost your shield?
That protected everybody.
They put you to death because that was for the protection of the line. The circle represents that. And it's a reminder that this is for me to protect the community. It's for everybody. Even the color is silver. That represents the community. Gold is considered a leadership color. Well, if you put this uniform on, guess what you are automatically in the community? A leader. So there'll be no difference between my badge and anybody else's. It'll look just like this, except they won't say chief on it, it'll say officer. As a matter of fact, they're intertwined. The badge goes behind and in front of the circle. Why? Because we're all the same. We're there for each other. I'm part of the community. You're part of the police department. I'm that idiot. The flags represent the support of the U.S. Constitution and the fact the flag represents hope. We hope to get it right, and we'll strive for that every day. The seal, Wyoming, very aware of the Wyoming Constitution and our lifestyle of independence, however, always looking out for the rest of the community. That's the cowboy way. Fiercely independent, but keeping each other together and keeping each other safe.
Well, and that's why, like I said, I mean, like I say, in the community, we have our own disputes, but at the end of the day, there ain't nothing I wouldn't do for anybody I disagree with.
Absolutely.
See, Mike and I don't see eye to eye on
Well, it's 'cause you all-
numerous things, but I have a lot of respect for the guy. And I think he returns that same level of respect. And I think that goes pretty much within the community itself,
Look, that's my feeling.
is the respect.
It's yelling, but it's raised voices. I'm okay with raised voices. I prefer not to have it because then it's hard for other people not to do that because we mirror the behavior we see. Matter of fact, that's why it's so important to exhibit the behavior you expect. Because before we can read and write, guess how we learn to do stuff? Copy what you did. That's why anger is contagious. That's also why happiness is contagious. So if we exhibit the behavior expected, we all know and I get it, if you're in crisis, you're not going to be the one, but a family member can sure help with that. Instead of me having to come there and now I got to fight them to try to help you. I can't tell you how often that happens. And the thoughtful, selfless service, that's the warrior ethos of selfless service. And that's the ethos that we all should adopt. It's not a bad thing. As a matter of fact, if you look up the definition by the Army, it doesn't mention soldiers fighting, killing, or battle. It has nothing to do with that. At its core, it's about selfless service. I want us to have thoughtful, selfless service. As a community, thoughtful, selfless service. This is the community's badge. Well, this was mine because I paid for it. but I put extra stuff on it for me as a reminder to me. On the back, I have an engraving that says the wounds of honor, integrity, and courage are self-inflicted. Nobody takes your honor. Nobody takes your integrity, and nobody affects your courage. Those are things you have absolute control over. So if you lost any of those, that's your fault. That's a reminder to me. Again, I'm not an idiot. These have to be reminders for everybody. So you can point out to an officer, hey, you remember what that badge means? Because we're human, we're emotional. Matter of fact, we're driven by emotion. That's a fact. We might use this part. Those of you that are my age in your 50s and older, we were taught the other thing. We were taught we're thinkers with emotion. Science has shown otherwise. We're emotional beings with the ability to think. Ability doesn't mean we will. So I'm no different than you guys. I get emotional. What I've learned is take a deep breath, man. And you're going to see me do that with folks. They're agitated. I'm going to say, do me a favor. And I get cussed at all. Why would I do that? I'm going to do it with you. Can you take a deep breath? I'll take one and they'll take one and get a little smile. All I'm doing is getting both back up here because I'm going to get carried away too. I'm no different than you guys. Everybody who wears the uniform is no different than the folks that don't, other than I decided to wear it for work. That's it. We need your help. I believe we have the opportunity to set this in motion and do it so that other communities can go, huh, maybe we have missed this boat. If we would just talk to each other. We're not always going to agree. I'm not here to get agreement from anybody. Understanding is what I'm looking for. We understand. There's a lot of things I understand but disagree with. Then we can work on whether we can fix them or not. And sometimes go, we're not there yet. But I understand why things are the way they are. That makes sense? That's my goal. Can't do it with y'all, without y'all. If you don't help me, I can't do it. What other concerns do you have?
What are your thoughts or strategy on training for mental health and like disabilities? You
So I'm
know,
gonna be honest with you on this. Cops have no business responding to that. And I'll tell you why. You talk to professionals, how long does it take to determine what kind of mental disability they have? 1 to 2 45-minute sessions. You want me to do it in 5 seconds? Oh, not only that, ask them, well, what do you do when they're in crisis, acting out? Well, nothing, you can't do anything with them. Okay, then why are you telling the public that we should be able to talk to them and talk them down and all that stuff? What they used to do in the facilities, they take the polyester pile of orderlies because they were more likely to be weapon-free in a facility than they are on the street, and they sedate them. Well, I don't have that option. To do this correctly, pressure needs to be put on the county and the state to bring back those facilities. I have no business responding, because here's the other thing, what we're learning. It's a valid question, it's one we don't like the answer to. When do you call a police officer to come to somebody like that? Why do you
Usually
call
when
them?
you're in trouble,
What kind of trouble?
life or death kind of trouble, because it's that hard.
Then what do you want me to do that you haven't done as a family member? I'm gonna try to talk to them, but if you're in fear for your life and you're a family member, where's my life gonna be pretty quick? We're sending the wrong folks too late. What we should be doing is, why didn't you call the health folks 2 weeks ago when Johnny quit his meds 2 weeks ago? That's the real issue. We're not addressing it when it happens. We're waiting until it's way out of hand and going, hey, y'all fix it. We don't like the way you did it. I don't have any other option. That's part of the problem. We're turning us into the sanitation engineers. I'm not the garbage man for society. I will tell you, as a chief, what my goal is. I'm going to say no a lot when we go, you should be doing this, and say, no, we're not the profession for that. Somebody else should be doing that. Because that's how that mission gets messed up.
Well, and that's how we keep our limited government and our rights intact.
Look, we say we got rid of the mental facilities because we didn't want to house them because they're expensive. Guess what we're doing anyway? Housing them in prisons that they're not designed for. Oh, and that's the worst place to put somebody who gets agitated easily. And people who will take advantage of them. We got to house them anyways. Go back and put the proper people in the proper place. Law enforcement for that. Law enforcement is typically the last resort. I am the one who will hold you responsible at some point. I want to build accountability in there prior to that. But when push comes to shove and the accountability failed, we're the ones that have to come hold you responsible, and that's why we're not like it. I become the principal in the school. You remember me in school. Principal wants to see you. What did everybody in the class do? Because the principal never came up for good stuff. That's what we got to try to do. And look, Barnum's ideal for me and the officers we get to walk around and just talk to folks. Because we're not going to be going call to call. Even with 900, it's going to be close to 1,000 calls per service by the end of this year. I pulled the numbers for the first 6 months. We're on track for 1,000 calls.
In 6 months?
Total for the year. Yeah, again, there's more, and that's just people calling for things they're seeing. You have a lot of stuff, vandalism, but people just aren't calling because they don't feel like anything's being done. So the need is there. The question is, what level of service do we want, and can we provide that? And I said before, if we come back and we just can't do it, I'm out of a job. And I'm sitting in a position where I can be honest about it because I don't need the job. I really want it, but I don't need it. I found other ways to make a living. So it puts me in a unique position to, I don't want to say do it correctly, but try to get as correct as we can. And I get it right now, this is all talk. We're going to have to see what we actually are able to do. But I'm letting you know what I would like to accomplish. Questions, concerns?
Let's have police cruiser. No, I'm just kidding.
Is that?
be the police
We're not getting any of that. If you would say, yes, we could do this. I don't want to spend money that just gets thrown away. So,
Your openness and be readily available.
look, we're working on the phone and all that. Look, we're starting with nothing. But we'll keep you guys apprised. I'm hoping, so I'll tell you up front now, before people start programming, I'll be gone for a month because I teach in Florida at the State Police Academy. They bring me in as their lead instructor to teach other teachers how to teach. This will be the last time I go because I have a full-time job now. So I'm going to be hitting the ground nonstop when I come back in the middle of the week. But we've already been working. I'm putting in 30 hours a week. Just trying to set the groundwork because it's that much meetings, running to do this, trying to figure that out, pulling information for funding to get as much help as we can to minimize how much impact we have for us to start. So,
Hey, Steve, why don't you tell them about the old Wardwell building? I don't think you mentioned that.
okay. So the old Wardwell building, that's where we're going to house the police department. Because it's already set up, right? It's got a ballistic glass in the front for a lobby. It's got everything a police department should have. So, and we could probably be there. We could be there for many, many, many years.
How much money is it gonna save us?
Tons, because right now all you have to put into that building is we're putting Wi-Fi in it, so I can actually work from there. Right now I'm working with my own setup until we can get that. And once we do this, it's going to cost replacing a couple exterior doors with solid doors to secure it and some interior cameras. I think that's about it. Maybe looking at changing how we get in and out of the building with key locks. That's it.
Which Wardwell building?
Well, you like to make the payments.
The big one?
The one that Gloria used to work in that had the full roof glass.
I didn't know it was bulletproof glass.
It already looks like a police lobby when you walk in. There's no, again, I'm not looking, it's an old building. I don't care. Reality of it is to do the work, I'm almost never gonna be in the building, so I gotta go out and work. So it's got a decent roof, new heat and air, and a new carpet. That's fine. And it's got an area for us to meet with the CIB. It's got a big meeting room. It's got everything we need. We'll have to shore up some things like cage in some interior wall for evidence, but that's it. I mean, you're talking about pennies to get this up and running rather than somebody just, oh, what about a building? What can we solve?
Is it all set up for you to have like interview rooms and stuff like that too, Steve?
Got an interview room set up. The main area behind the ballistic glass is going to be what they call the bullpen. That's where they will have their desks. There's a place for whoever the final chief will be. Will have a desk. There's 2 evidence locations. I can put a temporary one where the officers hang out, and then a permanent evidence interior to meet the exterior walls. There's all kinds of requirements we have to have a police department to protect evidence and things. It's already there. It's already there. So the investment is pennies. As a matter of fact, the other gate. So the water folks will still be using the heated garage because they need that. I'd like to have one, but I don't need the heated garage for doing inventories and stuff. So, but they won't have access to the rest of the building. They got their own bathroom. So there'll be some of that. But the other side has another fence that I can lock up that we can put evidence in. So we're not paying somebody else to store it. It's set up for just about everything we need for a long time to come. For a long time to come.
So obviously you guys won't be holding anybody there then.
You know, we don't want holding cells
Okay.
because you don't want that. What comes with that is a nightmare.
Well, and I know it's really expensive because of all the staff and everything. So
Place, you gotta have a nurse on duty or on call. You don't want a holding cell. Interview room is the most where you're gonna be there for a short while, 4 hours, whatever, and then if you go to jail, you go to jail. If you go home, you go home. You not hold people in holding.
So that'll be back to the county sheriff.
Yeah, and that's what larger department, really large ones will have all that stuff, but they're in a different ballgame.
Well, no, and I'd prefer that to be with the sheriff
I do too.
because that's
Trust me, I don't want
his
the
job.
headache. I don't want the headache. I don't even want temporary holding cells at all. We don't want that.
I don't think any community in Natrona County has that. It all goes to the
The
sheriff.
departments aren't big. You go east and some of the big cities where they're 300-400 personnel, they have that type of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, no, we're not gonna have a special response team. We're not gonna have the personnel for that. County, Casper, those are the ones who are still doing it. They're the ones that be in charge of that. I mean, we're not gonna be that kind of PD, maybe ever. It's not gonna be that big. If the need arises, the need will arise. It won't happen in my career. So again, I'm looking to purpose what we need to function. Simple, effective, efficient response. Stuff SEER, and working someone to see the future. So that's how I want us to operate. We're not looking for fancy stuff. And that's why it's gonna be tough to hire folks. The young kids aren't gonna want to come here because they want to do all the, very good.
But yeah, all the fun stuff
Yeah.
that the sheriff gets to do with
Yeah.
SWAT and all that stuff.
They gotta be trained in active killer stuff and, they're gonna get that training. But we're not putting together a SWAT team, department of 4 people. Well, it's not enough for them.
Yeah,
Anticipating the budget to go full law enforcement. Initially none. So
In the years to follow, because I know you're gonna get grant.
yeah, so the grant should carry us for 3, some maybe 4 years, and that's part of the grant process, that you have to show what is your growth plan. We talked about at the beginning, we have to have a growth plan to show, hey, here's what we're doing to make sure that, one, as a community, we grow the way we want. I'll be on my personal opinion is we should be looking at annexing things to the south. That way, guess what stays pristine? The core, bar none. But we annex the things that we need. We need more, the police station right now is outside the town.
yeah, if you guys are using that building, it is.
We need to find a way, because here's what's gonna happen, unfortunately. Growth has to happen in some way, shape, or form. If it's not actual construction, it's annexing. Because as you've seen, as things progress, if we stay the same, we start to fall off and all our services will suffer because we outprice ourselves with the cost of services. The question is, how do we do that and stay the town of Barnum? That's the challenge. So part of the requirement, and the council's already on top of it, is what are we gonna do? How are we gonna grow? And then part of that plan is how do you go out and find those businesses and find those developers to come in and develop those areas the way you want them? And still maintain the integrity of the town. That's the push-pull of having your own town. It has to grow somehow to some degree. We just don't want it to be rampant. And we may never have the need to have 24/7 coverage. It may not ever arise. We cover the prime areas and we have all parks. So if we don't need it, we're not gonna push for it. Doesn't make sense.
Real fast, I'm really glad that Mayor Boyer is here, because I'm gonna ask you, because I'm under the assumption, and I think Bar None already pays a nominal fee to the sheriff's department for their services. So that money now is not only going to stay in Bar None, but that's what's kind of fueling this. Am I correct about that? Like,
Yeah.
now we're not, so it's not,
So the contract that we have with the sheriff's department,
no,
go ahead.
I'm like, that's because I'm like, that's what makes this so great, is that money is in Bar None, but now it's staying in Bar None and like being cycled through Bar None, correct?
Yeah, so if I could, basically what happens is, and this, contracts are very specific. And this is not a slight against everything, but we're getting what we pay for. It's a presence in Bar None is what the sheriff gives us. That's different than patrol. What your own police department will provide is patrol. What that means is you'll have dedicated officers who do nothing but Bar None. They all build relationships. We know everybody. You end up knowing who the kids' parents are, so we can actually do that effective community policing. And they're here more often, more regularly, so they can help pay attention and prevent some things. There is a difference between presence and patrol. So
I would just like to add to that too, that, the contract we currently have with the sheriff's department is about $80,000. And so that will be going back into the police department. So that goes in our community. I mean, that could be literally, that pays for an entire police officer right there, but just by itself. And then some. And also, kind of adding on to what Steve said, we currently have, I think, 12 different patrol officers from the sheriff's department. So speaking of that community policing, whenever we have, and I'm just going to use this as one example, the vandalism up at High Plains that is so prevalent. Instead of having, and like I said, there's nothing against the sheriff's department, and I'm not slamming on them. I'll leave that up to Mike. Mike Schoolcraft.
Let's say I slammed the sheriff too, but.
So what it does is, instead of having a rotating Rolodex of police officer or a sheriff's deputy coming through, you have that dedicated person that knows the parents, knows the kid, knows the situation, and can take care of that situation. And that's just one example. We do have a lot of other stuff that actually happens in the community that we don't really talk about much. Probably we should, I guess. Maybe that's my fault. I'll take the blame on that one. But there are things that happen in the community that have not been talked about. And I think a lot of people have and I don't want to spread fear and discontent, but there are things that happen and that we kind of brush under the rug a little bit because we think we live in Mayberry. But Steve's point about us living right next to a metropolitan area is absolutely 100% spot on. And so, do we have bad crime here now? It's not terrible. Do we have crime? Absolutely. 100%. Yes, we do. Do we want to get out in front of that? 100%. That's my goal. That's Steve's goal. That's council's goal, is to get out in front of this problem before it becomes.
Yeah, and then we can stay
Serious
small.
issue.
We can stay small. Like I said, I'm not looking to see how many people I can put in a uniform. That is not my goal. What do we need to do this effectively and efficiently and reasonably?
Yeah, because this is Wyoming. We don't want California or Wyoming.
Yeah, well, I don't want to be. I mean, I live in Florida because I, to be honest, I got tired of the nuttiness. I mean, there's no rest. Every time I want to patrol, I'm chasing people like with my guns around. But they got behind it. So, and also the other part is what that does allow too is that progressive. I hate to use it. I don't want to use it, but progressive discipline, meaning you have a different deputy here every time running the kids, so they get 12 warnings and nothing gets done, and we all go, well, they're not doing anything. Well, as far as I know, it's the first time these kids have been dealt with. When you have the department who's dedicated, every officer, there'll be 3 of us at best. If I'm lucky, I get 3 plus me if I can keep the job.
Well, the sheriff's
Well,
office
no.
is already understaffed.
Yeah, well, the
They
whole
don't really
state, every agency in your state's understaffed because of our population.
And then that's why we have a limited government too. It
Well,
goes hand in
oddly
hand.
enough, we have one of the largest per capita governments in the country because you have a baseline that you have to function at. That's the other odd.
Yeah.
So, but yes, I agree. Again, what do we need to do? And what it'll boil down to, I don't have to do that part of my job if everybody does their job and follows the rule. Then I don't have to do part of my job. I do not like taking people who make mistakes, not criminal activity is different. I'll smile every day I get to take that kind of activity to jail. But for those of us who make mistakes, I was speeding and I shouldn't have been. That's not, I don't get to go, ooh, how many of those can I write? Get my toaster tomorrow. It's not happening today.
It's for real to get out, you know what I mean?
So again, and look, we've had discussions about speeding, but the goal is to work together, find out how to make this happen and take care of each other. And I and whoever we bring on, whether I stay or somebody else, they're going to need your help. If we step away and don't help, you're going to get the police department you deserve them. If we have a bad police department, that's a community issue. It's not a department issue. That's been my experience. They're a reflection of the community. If they're disgruntled and angry, the community probably is too. So we got to try to keep that in mind. Like you said, we can disagree. We can get a little loud once in a while. But if it doesn't go past that, I'm cool. We're good. I get it. Passion's not a bad thing unless we let it take control of us. I'm passionate about the profession. I wish we didn't have the reputation we have because we haven't earned it. We just are horrible at explaining what we do.
Well, and part of the problem with that too is you've got 1,000-person police force. You got one bad apple in there, and that makes 1,000 bad apples, and you have a whole lot of people.
Well, so it gets blown out of proportion. The news ain't running stories about the good stuff we do.
Right.
Well, no, that's not news breaking. Doesn't give you.
Well, it's not news breaking because guess what? We won't watch it if we don't see the bad stuff either.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not us. We get the news, we the dirt. I want the dirt. That's the difficulty of the human condition. Any other questions or concerns? And again, come December, you sit down and do this, we will figure out how to do the community information board. I'll ask for names. They'll be color coded. They're going to be put in a hat and drawn. I'm not looking at resume because I don't want to have, oh, you picked them because we're going to draw you from a hat. Now understand whoever gets on the board is going to have a criminal background. So if somebody wants to be on there and they're a criminal, they'll put your name in. We'll pick you up.
Oh, well, you know, that's the definition of a criminal, aren't you? I mean,
So I think we're trying to make
never know.
The state operation.
Treat his name and phone number, put in a hat. We're going to draw it. We're not parsing through resumes and all that. That's the fairest way I can think of, unless we come up with something you guys like better. It's the fairest way I think I can handle these 7 or 10 different things. Thanks again. Thank you for your time. Taking it out of your year.
Let's do that.
No, you gotta take some of it. I don't know.
Have to admit, I laughed when they said, oh, it's gonna be done.